Woo. All right, make sure that hit. Divine, grand divine, blessed be to this day / night of the 13. 1 plus 3 equals 4. And that stands for the aspects of stability and consistency. And that's where we're going to get into these aspects of cutting these cords. But before we cut the cords, before we can truly cut cords, what I notice with a lot of people when they want to cut cords, when they want to cut things off, they want to shut shit down, they want to make separations, they don't understand the aspect of a soul contract. We're going to get into soul contracts tonight. Turn that goddamn light down. That shit is bright as hell. All right, that's better. We're going to be getting into soul contracts. We're going to be getting into your frequency shifting. We're going to be getting into understanding that particle acceleration. I remember when I was in high school, middle school, and I remember the first thing that I thought about, I remember everybody was like, yo, why do we need to learn algebra? Why do we need to learn algebra, calculus, and all of these certain things? Because they really don't make sense for us. Like, they're not needed for us. Why do we need to listen to them? And then that was just something that I thought about earlier. But then I thought about understanding the line by line of what a soul contract is, how it came into fruition, and what happens when we stay too long in those when you stay in that soul contract. When we stay in that contract for so long, the first thing we got to understand what a soul contract is. That was designed along with your name, along with your birth date. Those are the keys to unlocking your soul contract and understanding it. So whenever I thought about you got to give away the slave master's name and all of these things like this, I was like, if everything within that space we created based on heavy of the trauma, whatever the problem may be, whatever that shit may happen, all of that is a part of our contract that we are fulfilling. Your soul contract is a continuation, whether some people are just realizing some people have just woke up. Some people are just their first time around, their first time coming through. And for some of us, for me, the more and more I go further and further in my purpose, the more and more I know, like, where I'm, like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And I've done the aspects of renewing the karmic debt that's in my soul contract. I've cleared off. But we don't understand these aspects. And tonight we're going to be breaking down those aspects and understanding those things that lock us into this labyrinth state of mind. Lock us in the labyrinth of trying to find things to connect to us and give things reasons to stay connected. Renewing these old contracts that we don't even understand the original contract. From your mother to your father to lack thereof, either one of your parents, whoever was the maternal figure in your life, brothers, sisters, everybody in this space is there for a particular purpose. They're there for a particular purpose. And that's what we have to realize. I started thinking about it the other day when I thought about it today and really been reflecting on it. It's been my reflective month while I've been building. And I was really thinking about every time I got a new job. I thought about when I got a new job, when I got a promotion at a job, when I moved, when I left the state, when I left the city, when I came back, when I was moving around. I started thinking about all of these things. All that chatter came in during a meditation for me. And I was like, outside of the emotional aspect, and I really had to start thinking out of the emotional aspect of why certain individuals, whenever I did get some good news or I was in a good space, the dryness that they had. And for me, in that first aspect, I would think they're dry because they're haters. They don't know how to, but it was not as deep as I thought it was. Whenever you're moving forward into your purpose, and some of us have noticed this, when you're going higher into yourself, the distractions based on the emotion, the distractions based on that trigger, whenever that trigger is triggered while you're going forward, whatever emotional imbalance, sadness, happiness, whatever it may be, whatever charge hits that trigger, it also activates those equal distractions. So this is when we think about whenever we want to attain for something and we call for the universe, we call for our higher self to bring something for us. And then this is under that thought process when the universe will give you exactly what you need, and then it will give you an equal distraction to see if you're going to move away from it. This is aspects of understanding our higher self. If you have a debt in this space, you have a debt within yourself. There's something you have not learned. There's something that you keep cycling back through based on them negative thoughts that you keep cycling back through. Every time you get to the peak where it's time for you to jump, you end up going back. You revert. There's debts that you haven't cleared off. Until you clear off these debts, and this is just the fucking realest part of it. Until you clear off the debts that you need to clear off, until you cut the ties that you need to cut, you're not going to advance. Plain, simple, cut. So one of the biggest soul traps that get you trapped is when they're talking about my people, my people, my people, my people, my people. We got to make sure for black people and raise for our people. Our people are ignorant. They don't want to let go of something. I had to start thinking backwards. I was like, it's not that they don't want to. Maybe they have survived on that, and that's what they need. That's what they feel that they need. That is a part of acceptance and honesty for myself, because that was the only way that I can unlock for myself that the things that I'm doing for myself are for my growth. The things that I'm doing for me are in acceptance for my boundaries and my parameters and everything that I'm going forward with. So therefore, what they're doing on their end, they're doing that based on their accept, whatever it may be, either what they haven't accepted, or if they haven't accepted something, or they have. It doesn't have a direct correlation with me, other than me learning from what happens if I stay there too long. One of the biggest things for me was like always trying to remain the good son. That was one of my biggest things. With the knowledge that I had, I always wanted to be the good son. I wanted to be whatever my pops wanted me to be. I was trying to be the best of what my mother wanted me to be. But what I was realizing was those are my first aspects of projection. Those are my first aspects of projection. When we step into a position, the first thing that we'll think about is being more selfless. The more selfless you are, the less of a body you have, the less of an imprint you're making. That's the reality of it. You're making less of an imprint. You have less of a body. You have less of a charge because you're selfless. You have said to the universe, I want to be selfless. And you're saying it from a space based on that emotional imbalance. Now you're saying I'm selfless. I want to help people. I want to help people. I don't want to think about myself. If it comes, it comes. But I wanna bring people to a certain space. The only way that you're gonna bring people to a certain space is if you have created that space first. You must create the potential. You must create your potential world. You must create your space before you do anything else. This is the aspect of the groundwork. We're taught here in this realm, we're taught beginning to end when it's actually end to beginning. So this entire time we're racing before the end comes, but we're the ones that are on their sole purpose. And I'm noticing now I'm in my sole purpose. When I'm in my purpose, when I'm in my group, when I'm in my lane, there's no rushing for me. That aspect of time doesn't exist for me. You're going to notice that a lot of times when, for me, for example, in the beginnings of my becoming aware of myself, me working on myself, a lot of the things that I was depending on were a lot of the things that I was detached or trying to denounce, I still was very much attached to. There was still residue within me. So I was still within that cycle. So I would get to a point to where I would, like, for example, I would go to the gym, I would work out only for a certain amount of time. My consistency would be off. I would get a job. First 2 years, it'd be a fun, like, yeah, this job is fucking awesome. I'm getting everything I want. But then after like the second year, it tapered off. Relationships, they would taper off. Because my mindset in the beginning, my mindset in the beginning was based on hope. I was basing myself off hope that if I get this job, I was still connected to, I was still trying to fulfill an old contract. I still had an old contract on the table. So I could not go any further until I dealt with that contract. I remember one time my pops was like, you got a contract. And I was like, okay, you got a contract you got to fulfill. You haven't fulfilled your contract. And I remember, like, I would look at him and be like, what the fuck does that even mean? What the fuck ever? Like, I don't, like, the fuck? I thought he was on some, I thought to what I was thinking based on how I felt about my father at the time, I approached that logic with emotion. So when he said it, it never set in, it kicked out. So when he would say certain things, it would kick out. This is what happens a lot of times when we're transitioning, because our mindsets are still stuck within a certain pattern. So anything that can change this pattern, if I'm still looking based on emotion, I can't. If I'm still thinking about, if all I'm thinking about is sustaining my external state of being, I got my job now. No one can tell me anything. I got my own place. No one can tell me shit. I got all of these things that I couldn't wait until I got to a certain age to get to. But you got all those things based on that contract. Everything that you're getting is going to be based on that contract. So everything that you get until you fulfill your initial contract in that space, you can't go forward. That's why you have people right now that are 40, 50 years old and they're still within that 25-year-old mindset. They're still within that 30-year-old mindset. That's why when you can look on TV, YouTube, whatever, and you see videos and rappers and artists, they're still dressed like they're damn near 40, 50 years old. They're damn near late 30s, early 40s, late 50s, and they're still dressing in they're still dressed in that same attire because they have to fulfill that contract. In order to fulfill that contract, they got to stay within that time loop. If I deal with this contract, if I deal with this, then I have to admit that this shit is not working. If I do this, then I have to admit that this. I have to admit this. For a lot of us, this is where that distraction comes from. I remember for myself when I was first coming into just being aware, and my hunger for knowledge now, my hunger for knowledge, my hunger for just knowing, my hunger for growing was different. My hunger now is based on alignment, and my hunger before was based on needs and wants. So if I got what I needed based on my hunger, I wasn't hungry anymore. If I got what I needed based upon what I wanted, I wasn't hungry anymore. So my efficiency went down. My consistency went down. But then that would trigger me staying in that space, thinking the same thoughts, stuck in that fundamental loop, stuck in that pattern. As long as I'm thinking negative shit, as long as I'm thinking something based on the negative or my lower aspects of myself, I'm always going to need something. I'm always going to have that longing for something. This went into the aspect of, I had a client yesterday. And I was breaking down the aspects of the maternal instinct and the fraternal instinct, the masculine aspect being that knowledge, being that provider, being that protector, and the aspect of their mother being the nurturer. Their father wasn't really in their life, so they had a longing for their father. But I was like, we got to a point that I was like, it wasn't your father that you were longing for. You have to go back further. Your father, we did a reading, did a meditation, and then he came back to a space where he saw his father, but his father was actually his son. So, and he replayed the aspect of his life in his meditation, and he was like, yo, I wasn't there. The same way my father's acting with me, I went back and I saw myself doing that before. The lack of not, like, he was there. I was there for my my son father, based on the same way my father was for me now. My father sent money to the house every month. My father did these things every month, but there was never any aspect of knowledge. So the thing that he was longing for was actually the aspects of gathering that information or unlocking that, redefining that information so we actually can look at that contract. This is what we're doing when we're unlocking ourselves from the emotional aspect. When we're thinking about the trauma, because as long as you're thinking about whatever happened to you back in 1992, 1996, or whatever happened to you back then, you're still that person. Regardless if you want to believe it or not. As long as you are thinking as that person, that the trauma, whatever had happened to you back then, you're still that person. You're still in that contract that you create, that basically your subcontract to your original contract. You're still that person. So you're still in that space. That's why you see people acting in the same way that they're acting. And when they start to come out of that space, when you start coming out of that space, people only can reach you. You're going to notice they need some type of a connection to you, but in reality, they need some type of attachment. They need to stay attached to you based in that thought process, because unconsciously, and it comes out as emotion, but like, we don't hang out anymore. You'll have people like, we don't hang out anymore. You don't come by the house. We don't hang out anymore. We don't do a lot of the things that we used to. You remember back in like the 9th grade, we used to do this every weekend and stuff like this. You're going to start seeing shit like that. They're going to start becoming more and more distant just based off the imagery. You can go outside. I go outside every rising, and there's nobody outside when I go to the gym. There's nobody outside. There's no cars. But as I'm about to hop in the car, turn the key, head out my complex, that's when I start seeing the cars coming around. And like I'm always bogged down in traffic because the cars that are usually behind me or in front of me, they're usually going to the gym. They're usually going somewhere to work out. So I had to start understanding my frequency where I was at within that space. So the more I started understanding this aspect of my frequency, I started understanding why certain individuals will come into my life and what they will come into my life for. This becomes that major key when you're starting to move forward. People are going to be coming up in the respected order that is necessary for you to learn what lesson that you need to learn. So you have to this is separating your entire mind from the aspect of like, I'm tired of dealing with no good niggas. I'm tired of dealing with these ignorant bitches. I'm tired of dealing with these motherfuckers over here. They're coming up for a reason. They're coming up for that reason, for a lesson for you to learn. There's something that you have not learned yet. There's something, even if you've learned a certain aspect, you've learned one aspect to one part of yourself. Ashe. You've learned one aspect to a part of yourself. You haven't learned there's still the other facets of yourself that you have to cut that cord from. There's still other aspects of yourself that you have to cut that cord away from. So think about it like this. You get in every relationship you get in, it gets to a point to where the contract has been met. You got everything that you needed. You got everything that you needed in the beginning of the relationship. 9 times out of 10, the way relationships are looked at now based on needing something or wanting something, you get everything you need within the first 6 months or that honeymoon phase. Within the first 6 months, you get everything you need within the first 6 months of the relationship based on how people look at relationships now, based on that needing and wanting of something. You get everything you need in the first 6 months. You get all the flags. You'll get everything that's perceived under flags. You'll get all the physical aspect. You're going to get all the monetary aspect. You're going to get everything you need in the first 6 months. That's the contract. That is the contract period. That's your probationary period. That's your contract. Now, from this point, after that 6 month, the little honeymoon phase and shit, that contract has to be renewed. And this is when you're not looking at it based on emotion. You're not looking on it based on that nigga slaying the best or her ass is so fat. You ain't looking at it. If you're looking at it based on physical and mundane shit, this person pays for everything. This person pays for everything, and this person treats me really, really nice, and they accept me for who I am. They know I have issues, but they don't pry. They don't pry on the issues that I have. They don't make me try to fix. They don't challenge me. Because this is honest what most motherfuckers are actually saying to themselves. They don't challenge me enough for me to want to leave. So my expectation within that space serves this purpose. But now I want more. That naturally I need and want more. You got everything you wanted within that first aspect. Yeah, there's no challenge of learning. So when you're looking into a space, I'll use an example. I remember I had a conversation for about a month. This was like 3-4 years ago. Had a conversation for about a month, and we were really having conversations. Like, I wanted to have conversations. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to approach relationships, how I used to approach relationships was like, I guess since it's there, I'm going to do it. I have nothing else better to do. I'm just going to do it. So my expectations were actually pretty fucking low. But I'm not talking about like, and I'm not, and when I say expectations are pretty low, I'm talking about based on me now in my Titan self rather than when I was in that human state. It was like, I can cook for myself. I can clean for myself. I can cook for myself, clean for myself. I can do everything that I need to do for myself. Your real purpose is basically just going to be physical. And if I want to go to like a movie or go eat dinner or some shit, like there was nothing challenging within it. What I was finding out was that I kept finding the same exact, these relationships kept peaking out at the same shit. It got to a point to where since I didn't need anything, since I felt like I wasn't striving for anything big or like looking into myself, I didn't want to go deep into myself, so I didn't need depth from them. What I started noticing was the things that were coming out on the surface based on my energy of me being in a certain space, just me being in that space, not even being really, this is before I even started a healing process, but just me being in that certain space, in that certain energy. This is how I started understanding myself more. And that's what I was. I didn't know myself, so I didn't understand what the fuck I was doing when I was inside doing these spaces. Why their minds always went to the same shit. Oh my God, I've never had somebody do this and this and this. And the shit that I thought was fucking normal was abnormal, basically. Because I was coming from a space where yeah, now most definitely now, like that's the main fucking question. Yeah, but like before, like 5-6 years ago, like that wasn't in my thought process. That shit wasn't in my thought pattern. So I was realizing that I kept attracting the same exact type. But there was a reason I was attracting the same exact type until I realized the real reason. I just kept repeating it. Every chick that I met at this point in time, like back in, I'll say from 2008 to about 2013. You would say 2008, 2013. Every chick within this little block of time, they were either in school, they were either thinking about going to school, in school, or hiring their education. That's what they were at. They also were at odds with going back home. They were also at odds with going back home. They had issues within their family units. These were the same patterns. And now that I'm sitting in this space, I realize what those reflections were showing me. I had issues that were deeply rooted in my family issues. There's things in my family that I didn't deal with. I was stuck in a space of I didn't understand the aspects of, I thought I achieved higher education already. I thought I knew what I needed to know, and I was in the space where I needed to be at. So I'm in that space, and I'm looking at them and like, damn, every chick that I'm talking to is either going to school or not in school, or they got some family issues, or they trying to find something. They always trying to find something. So for myself, when I'm looking at myself now, I'm like, yo, like, damn, that shit made sense. And until I understood that pattern, I couldn't fill out that contract. They were all different bodies all in the same contract. They were all different bodies, all under the same fucking contract that I was living in. The same fucking contract that I was sitting there. I wasn't fulfilling my part. I wasn't not fulfilling the contract. And since I wasn't fulfilling the contract, it would end. Another one would come in. Like 6 months, 6 months, 6 months of a relationship, 8 months off, about 8 months to a year off, then come back in. It might be 8 months of a relationship and then another year off. And then I started noticing towards the ending aspect around like 2013, from like 2013 to about 2015. No, 2013, no, 2012, 13 to about 2014. I had no interest in dealing with anybody, talking with anybody, wasn't talking to no, like there was no need for it. Like I couldn't, and I had conversations, had talks and whatever it would be, but it was like there was nothing of a substantialness for me to move forward into. It's like I realized something at a point in time. In 2013, I realized something, and then like I noticed that contract, now that I can think about it in this space, that contract had changed. The lines within that contract had changed. I was like, yo, like, I'm not going based on the same agreement. The agreement that I had the first time it's not working this time. And then as I moved forward, when I actually started my healing process, healing the relationship with my mother, I noticed that the chicks that had mom issues, they fell off the face of the map. Or they could not get into, they could be in my space, but they cannot see. They could be in this space with me, in this space with me, but there would not be a connection. Or ones that have father issues, there we come into this space, but there was no meshing. This is how the spirit really had these niggas. You ain't going back to that shit no more. You got more shit you got to do. So I started to realize this shit more and more and more. I started realizing that me being in the space that I'm in right now and me having 0 children. I remember how one time I was having a conversation with a shorty at at a job. We was online, and she was like, "You have no kids?" I was like, "Yeah." It was like, after a while, it was like, "Is it weird for me not to have children?" Like, motherfuckers really thought, I was like, "So it's weird that I don't have kids?" Like, I thought it was fucking normal. Like, and my reason was always fucking normal. My reason was always the same reason, was like, yo, I'm not going to marry the mother. I'm not going to marry the mother. I'm not marrying the mother of my kids. I'm marrying my wife. The mother of my kids is not going to be my wife. My wife is going to be the mother of my kids. And that was that thought process at that period in time. And then that changed up, that switched the whole frequency around. So then it was for a while, because in that same little sprinkle, in those years, I think I dated 3 chicks with kids at that time. Like, there was 3 different chicks that had kids. Yeah. So I'm sitting in the space, I'm like, I'm good. And like, I stuck to my reason. So it kept me out of certain spaces, but I was still able to experience what it would, because every time that I was this open, since I've always been open, I was always open, but I wasn't vulnerable. Being open and vulnerable are 2 different parts of the same thing. Like, in order, you can be open as hell, but if there's no vulnerability, you're only open to the shell. Vulnerability is allowing yourself to absorb and filter out certain aspects. So I was open, but I wasn't vulnerable. I would get to a certain point. I was still in this space where I would get to a certain point, and then I would start nitpicking at aspects within a relationship, but it was like I was putting that, and this is what I used to talk about. This is how it just hit me. I was like, yo, like, this is what I was talking about earlier in the week. If you didn't watch the Meditate Elevates, I was like, I was putting these exceeding values on these contracts. These contracts were like 1 year, $250,000. But the state of value that I was putting on those contracts was like, I'm putting $1 million. I'm putting like $1 million in equivalent in like an equivalent of value into a $250,000 contract. I'm putting more worth on that contract and expecting it to live up to that aspect of worth, but I wasn't living up to that aspect of that worth of that. I wasn't living up to that million. I wasn't living up to the $1 million that I was putting on that contract. Contract worth $50,000, and I'm putting $1 million on it. There's always going to be a deficit. There's always going to be the room for that. There's always going to be the aspect for it to fail. This is when you're coming into this balance for yourself right now, when we start understanding this labyrinth and that maze and how we created that maze. The best way that I used to explain that maze is, imagine when you were little and you were in school or whenever, and imagine a kid being told to go into a corner and think about what they've done. Imagine telling a kid, go in a corner and think about what you've done. Now imagine now we have the understanding of thought that the mind is all and everything, the universe is mental. So everything that we think, we create. So if I'm in a corner, I'm in a sustained space where I have to really think, and I'm in that space and I'm creating within this space, that space becomes the nexus point to all of my thoughts based on everything that I've done that may have not been good, or in this aspect was not acceptable. So as I'm doing this method over and over and over again, that corner becomes a wall. That corner now fills out to be a wall. So then I'm still in this corner. I'm still acting in this mindset. The corner, now I have another corner. Eventually this corner cuts off and then it becomes another wall. Before I know it, I've created an entire labyrinth or an entire maze of things to get to me. Now we're gonna go by family. We don't stick in family right now. So your family, based on that soul contract, that purposing, the traumas and everything, the family that you connect to, the things that you are connected to, all have their own corners. They all have their own corners based in the reflection of replicating the same thought based on that same trauma, whatever it may have been, that same algorithm. So that creates that part of the maze. So when we think about this maze of working through cutting these cords, those cords first have to be realized by looking at the traumas that created the walls within that space, within that room. So everybody got their own box. This box got this way out. They got out this way. My mom got out that way. My father got out that way. But in reality, my mom is an aspect of me from another past space. She got out that way. My pops is another aspect of a space within me going down that ancestral line that got out this way. That's your labyrinth. That's what you're working through. And all of this is circled around, and in the center of this is the original thought. In the center of that is the original thought. The thought that sparked everything. Your true self, your true aspects of yourself right there in the center is what actually started the damn process. Okay, it's not done. And this is a lot of time where we get lost. Wait, I almost lost my damn train of thought. You stay attracted to these aspects and thoughts. So now my reflection matches my newest relationship matches the first relationship, the second relationship, the third relationship, the fourth relationship. Because I didn't address the trauma or what triggered that spark that happened from the first initial relationship. What sent me down this path? What sent me down this corridor? What do I need to learn coming down this corridor? Every time I keep getting hit in the fucking head, what am I not learning? This is whenever you see that motherfucking picture when they got the heart and the brain, the heart keep going out there, going to go get feelings, and the brain's like, not nothing, just go out there this time. And the heart telling the brain, shut the fuck up, and the heart keep getting fucked over and fucked up and fucked up. That's what you keep doing when you go into these spaces with that when you setting that tone of I just want to find happiness. I just want to find happiness, and I want to find somebody that accepts me for me. The first person that's going to accept you for you is going to be you. So if you don't accept you for you, what you're truly doing is you're wanting somebody to have, you're setting the tone or the expectation for somebody to expect from what you tell them. This is why the first thing when people get in relationships or talk to people, they tell them all the bad shit first. They tell them everything that happened to them bad. I've been in abusive relationships and I've been hurt before and I've been this and I've been all of these things. That's why the first thing you hear when you get on the first thing you get on the fucking news, the first thing that pops off when you get on the fucking news, whenever they show you a reflection, they show you a black person on fucking TV, the first thing they're going to try to tell you is this motherfucker was a thug and went to jail and all these other aspects. Because they need to sell you a certain fucking image. They need to sell you a certain projection. That projection is going to attain to something that's already within inside you. So you naturally going to feel sorry for a motherfucker because they say, yeah, man, I had a hard ass life. My question when someone told me they had a hard ass life, okay, what did you do about it? It becomes simple and honest. Like everybody's had an aspect of a hard life. Something hard happened in their life. Everybody's had an event within their life. Everybody's had an event within their life. But what have you done to understand that event? Because in truth, take this thought process into mind. Everything that's ever happened to you is based upon in this illusion. Everything that's happened to you is based upon this illusion. So when you leave this body, does that shit come with you? Can that shit come with you if it was only based down here? It only can be created down here based on emotional imbalance, not knowing yourself, not setting boundaries, and all of the parameters that you got to set. So if that, it truly doesn't fucking exist. It only exists as a thought. It started as a thought, it's going to end as a thought. That's why it's always a thought. That's why when you stay stuck in that negative space, you keep getting the same or things in equivalent within that shit that keep happening to you. Because you're still stuck you're still thinking of yourself as that person. It's like a fat person that goes to the gym and starts working out and loses a great amount of weight. Yeah. Yeah. Straight red dress style from the Matrix. But then you're in this position over here. They're still thinking about themselves as the fat person. They're still thinking about themselves as the addict they're still addicted to the aspects of what brought them to that space. So anything that when something does cycle through, because there's always going to be a cycle of something good something positive that's going to come through, because that's needed for that rate reset for that shit to move. Because that energy cannot stay stagnant forever or it must continue changing. Energy keeps moving, so it got to change. So now that person's in that position, they're like, man, I just want this. Because if you're still trying to take if you're still trying to take this information based on who you were, you're gonna fall into that loop. Because I know motherfuckers that fell into that fucking pocket of, I gotta save my people, or there's other people like me, and they ain't got nothing to do with you. Everybody's on their path. Everybody's within their space. The reason that you got the information, the reason that you got the call, the reason that your phone went the fuck off, at your phone went off, you got the email, you got the text, you got that message, you got that call. The reason that you got that call is because you came to a point. This is the point for you to get that call. If everybody got the call at the same time, there would be no need for the fucking work. There would be no purpose for the fucking work. There would be no reason for this. There would be no reason for shadow work if everybody got the call at the same time. Because that means everybody's going to jump online and just start moving up. That's based on artificial intelligence. That's what you see down here when motherfuckers talking about artificial intelligence, quantum computers, and all of that shit, D-wave computers, and the wave of the future. They keep giving you this they keep giving you this illusionary aspect outside of you, so you feel like as long as I sit here and not do anything, everything's going to fall into place. No, that's not how that shit works. You actually have to do the work. Because you're aligning yourself to that energy. So you're not going to become, it's like, you're not going to become the millionaire. You're not going to gravitate towards a millionaire mindset. Most can't even gravitate towards a millionaire mindset, ownership mindset, because they're stuck within the space. They're still stuck within the space being a player. They haven't even learned how to coach themselves how to get out of the situation that they're in. So they're still stuck in player mentality. They can dress like an owner. They can act like an owner. You can dress like the owner, act like the owner, grab all of the owner's nice little pretty things. But if you're still in a player mentality, the struggle mentality, the struggle to make it, the suffer to make it, the pain stinkings to make it, if you're still activating, still in that space, every time you get to the chance to become the coach, to leap into that coach state, you're always going to go back to what's easier for you because you know everything that happened back there. Literally living within the trauma, living within that space. And then the natural response for most of these, and then you're going to start noticing this. I noticed a long time ago when I stopped feeding, the first time I started cutting cords, when I first stopped feeding my family, I'll put it like that. When I first stopped feeding my family, when I first stopped feeding friends, when I first stopped feeding friends, when I first stopped feeding family on the financial level, the energy changed. I didn't realize how much the energy changed, but the energy had changed. And that point, I was like, nigga, like, damn, I wouldn't even really. I noticed that the energy changed. I noticed that they looked weaker. I noticed that they looked more tired. I noticed that they looked more dead in the face. I noticed that they just didn't look the way that I remembered them. Because the image of them was literally being erased. The image, as I was doing the work, as I'm doing the work and I'm changing this labyrinth around, so they no longer have access to the maze. I'm noticing that their energy looks different. You start noticing that shit now. It's like you can be I've never felt fucking stronger. I've never felt fucking stronger. The longer that I'm in this space, cultivating, doing the shit that I need to do, the longer that I'm in that mind, the longer that I sustain this mindset and keep going forward, the stronger I'm becoming, the faster I'm becoming, because I'm letting go of those aspects of that weight. There's things that you're not going to be able to take that shit with you, period. Yes, exactly like Handlander. I take a like Highlander. I take a like Highlander and Jet Li the one, and I put them. I merge those two together. It's like Jet Li the one, Highlander, and then take Morpheus from. Morpheus is like the subconscious aspect, and then Jet Li's like the aspect of like my soldier self, and then I take like Highlander aspect of taking off heads. I take that like that's the finishing aspect. Like once I get this information, cut the head off, I don't need the body anymore. Like that's how I look at it. But like now that you're in this space, you're gonna start noticing that when you go out, if you're gonna notice that your thoughts are going to be computing faster because we're in a quantum space. Yeah. Technically it was. You're going to start noticing in your life your thoughts are literally, since you're now linking, since we're definitely in this quantum space, you're going to notice that your thoughts are going to start creating faster. You're going to start seeing the shit faster because that veil has become thin. Your energy is in a new space. You're now in the space of constant chaos. This space right now, what's trickulating down now has already happened in the higher aspects of ourselves. And the closer you are to your higher self, the closer you are to the higher aspect of yourself, and the more you're into your purpose, the more this shit seems like a repeat. You're starting to see the repeat. It was already repeat. Now you're seeing the chaos that was as above is now happening below. Now you're seeing these cycle shift. How it's happening down here, it's happening slow. It looks slower down here. So now, based on your thought process, based on where your mind is at, based on what you've been thinking, how you've been working, and what you've been doing for yourself, is how you're going to interface with that energy. Some motherfuckers are going to interface with it, and they're still going to be trying to scratch off their way to their life that they want. They're going to be trying to go work their ass off, work their ass off, work the pounds off to go into the military, try to go back to school, do all of these aspects because they're still stuck within the same pattern of hope that their parents were stuck in. They're still stuck within they're stuck within the old contract. They don't understand that contract is not that contract. All those contracts have come up again because it keeps coming up. And it's like, okay, cool. Here's a contract. Do you want to renew your contract based on, have you learned this lesson? 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 It's like when you read the Sanskrit thing about what you come down when you get a body, you get task and all of that shit. You're going to start looking. This is how you're looking at your chart. It's like, I've overcame that. So that's done. This becomes when you go into the aspects when they talk about the balance and the mayat, I can recite all 42 laws because those are no longer aspects of me. I no longer view myself as that person. I no longer view myself as the person that did the stealing, that did any of these acts, that stole neighbors' goods, covered in all this stuff. I no longer see myself as that individual anymore. I'm not that person. So when it comes to people will come to me based on the thought that happened a year ago, 4 months, a year ago, I'll say even as close to 6 months ago. And I have a definitive answer to how I overcame that aspect. Definitive answer, like just spit it off my tongue. Like, this is what I did. I learned this, did this, and did this. And I can see that they're still living in that cycle in their mind. From there, that gives me, okay, cool. Let me set this boundary right here. I have compassion for what you did. I understand what you went through. I may not understand the physical ramifications of what you went through or whatever it may be, but I have an understanding based on shit that I went through, an equivalent that gave me to that same point. Because I'm nine times out of 10, like, to put it like this, if for me, when I was 14, when I was 15, by 15, I'd already lost 27 family members of mine to transition. By the time I turned 15, like 27 family members to transition. I was there or in the vicinity for most of these damn times. My cousin Felix transitioned when I was fucking 13, and we were running through an alley. We were running through a fucking alley, and he got shot trying to hop over a fence. And like this nigga is like in my arms, and I'm sitting there feeling his body, feeling his soul leave his fucking body. So like that was my first aspects of experience with death. Like I'm 13, cousin's 14, just got popped. That shit mentally scarred me for a while. Because after a point in time, it was like in my mind, what it got created was this separation aspect that was separating me further away from understanding what love was. Because I had an acute fear of being close to anything. Because anytime I thought something got close to me, I thought that shit was gonna fucking end up being dissipated anyway. And since I was in that thought process, naturally I had to create, whether I was accepting it or not, at that point in time I wasn't accepting of it or not. But I created the self-destruct program. I had no one to blame. And I put the blame on other motherfuckers. Like, I remember like looking at like, I remember trying to connect, but I always remember trying to connect to what motherfuckers were saying, like in the news, like black people getting shot up and niggas from the islands getting shot up and shit because of this, and this. And I never could connect to it. I truly, oh my God, that hurt my toe. In true composition, I cannot connect to certain things. Even to this day, like if I see the Breonna Taylor, Fidel Castro, and all of these niggas, is like, I don't know. Like my mind automatically goes like, I didn't know them. They transitioned. Like my mind is like, they transitioned. Like I'm so detached from that aspect, not mean that I do not have compassion. See, when you're in the aspect of needing and wanting is based upon caring. Needing and wanting is connected to that care aspect. So this is where the guilt can come in when you're stuck on that frequency in that bound of negative thought processes that you keep accelerating with your energy. You keep putting your energy into that negative aspect, your energy starts to get low, then you need things around you to keep you charged. So you have individuals that are around you that are still on that same negative concept, but they're still within that negative space. They're still on the same frequency as your dumbass. But you are doing something in your life that is perceived to be positive. Yeah, it's something I'm not worried about it. It's like, okay. If anything for myself, I'm like, okay, they free. Because I haven't understood, because this is you actually sticking and standing on your square to your understanding where the fuck is happening. They're gone. If I put my ideal thought process into them, I can make them trapped back down here. They'll be trapped down here. There's motherfuckers like whenever I go out and I'm gone for the night, or I'm gone in a meditation, or I'm gone in a fucking trance, when I go through, there's this layer of everybody, every thought, everybody that's stuck. They're stuck waiting to be recycled. They're stuck waiting to be recycled to come back down here. And there's that space, and I go through that space. I'm like, damn, that's a whole bunch of dead bodies. They're stuck in it. They're stuck. Like if you've seen what the fuck is the name with that show? The show on Netflix, Midnight Gospel, when he had to go into that over that fence there's a show on Netflix, Midnight Gospel. He had to go into a fence, but everything was stuck within a certain thought form. They got stuck in there. That's what that space, that's my rendition of what that space looks like. Or the under half of the duat. Yeah. That's the duat. That's the duat. So like I go through that and I'm in the dealing in higher shit, building higher shit, having councils and talking and doing my shit up there, then I come back down. I can go through that space because I have an understanding of what I have the understanding death is the transition, death is that gateway to the knowledge, death is the beginning. Death is the beginning aspect. Coming down here into this was when you came down here, when you came down the pipeline with your little contract, and I was mad as hell because I now know who told me like, yo, you need to go back, you need to come down here, man, and you need to do some work. You need to do some shit. I now know who. Whole long conversation with them, but yeah, we've had that conversation. Yeah, you have to go through the aspect of death. So for me, it's like when I look at it, it's like, nigga, they free. I don't want anybody. So what happens is, this is another aspect of that contract. When you keep making that dead end contract, you make yourself a martyr within that space. Most people that are within that space, when you start actually transitioning, they're going to look at you as if you're moving in the aspect of, if you're still connected to certain aspects based on not wanting to deal with your trauma, you're going to come to a point where you're going to become a martyr for that trauma. So now your family, the family, friends, everybody that you connected to on the shit that you have not dealt with, if you get knocked off, remember, because you choose your fucking death. You chose everything coming down here, down to your death, down to when you leave. So if you make that your purpose to make sure your family's straight and make sure your family's straight and make sure your family's straight, and then you work yourself to death and then you die, you have become the martyr for the aspect to make sure your family was straight. So now when you recycle back down here, you got to get to that point again. You're going to come back to that same fucking point of, why does this feel like a rerun? I remember after about the 5th job of a 5-year period of time, I was like, this feels like a fucking repeat. I actually remember saying to one of my bosses during an interview, I know for a damn fact I'm not recycling back. I know I'm not recycling back. I fully opened to what the fuck I'm supposed to do. Yes, it repeats itself until you learn the lessons that you need to learn. It's not a good or a bad thing. It's positive or negative. It's just based on how much karmic debt you ensued, how much debt you're going to gather up. Like, the more debt that you gather up into this space, the debt is everything that you're attached to. So if I'm in constant bad relationships and I never learn why I'm in these constant bad relationships, and then on top of these constant bad relationships, I have like this string of, I'm only living out what my family did because my mother's entire side of the family, all the girls in the family, all my sisters, all my aunts in my mom's side of the family, they were, all of them, they were basically like, none of them were married to the father of the original kids. Or one of my aunts, they're like, I don't know if they're still together anymore. That's how far the test I am. It's like they were together. They've basically been together for like 18 years and never even got married, because that's what they accepted. So you coming down here, everything that you've done, everything that you're doing is when you make your decision is not going to be basing your decisions based off that emotional, based off the trigger, is always going to lead you to repeat that shit because the trigger is still present. You hit the button. All right, cool. It's like you typing on the computer. Like you type, if I'm typing on my laptop and shit, and then I hit backspace, then I gotta go back again, hit backspace. Damn, I fucked that up. Let me go back to it again. That's basically the same. That's the same interfacing of you fucking with. That's you messing with your energy down here. Every decision that you're making is based on you standing on the square of the information that you now have, applying that information, learning how to apply that information into the different aspects of your life. This is how you're going to fulfill that contract. This is how you're going to start realizing most people are, when they approach relationships, friendships, is based on a longing or a needing for something. Yes. Just like the movie Happy Death Day. You're going to be in that aspect where most individuals, they're stuck within that mindset. To a point to where right now, for example, if I were to if I were to walk out of my front door, walk down my 3 flights of stairs and go stand outside, and let's say my brother, my homie that was my brother, I knew that, I still know him, he's still cool, and he pulled up and he was right across the street from me, like right across the street. And I've seen aspects of him like on my Facebook timeline or whatever, on the store, sharing his story. So I've seen the things that he's done. And I'm standing right there behind him. I walk up, go over there, I'm standing behind the line, right there behind him at the gas station or whatever. And I'm standing right behind him. And he looks me in my face and he don't know who I am. Or he walked right past me. The emotional aspect, like, this nigga don't even remember me, nigga, what the fuck? But in reality, we're not on the same frequency anymore. We're not in the same space anymore. For an individual now, this is when it comes to you making, what I was talking about last week about setting your barriers. If they don't see you, you have now become invisible to that frequency that they are on. You are on a different wavelength than them. That's that frequency you're now on. I operate at an entirely different frequency. The only way people that can connect to you based upon the frequency that you're on are the individuals or the conduits that are within your life. That's the only way that they'll ever be. Think about when Jay was like, yo, people wouldn't see me if motherfuckers didn't see the pictures. If there was no cameras on me, if you didn't see pictures, you would never see me in real life. That's what your shit is like. That's basically what I've become. The only way people will know me is anybody that's in my life says something about me. That's been my entire life anyway, when I was in an unconscious state. I remember there was times with my pops, when I would go over to my mom and my pop's house, and my pops would be like, I don't know why everybody has a different story from a different perception of you. I don't think he even realized it, like when he would say this shit. Every time people come over here, they give me a different perspective of something that you did, or somewhere they saw you at, or something to that space, and they bring it back here. I now have the understanding of why they kept bringing it back there, because that space is the only space where all that point in that nexus is the only point of frequency where all of my lives and all of my perceptions were at that hub. If I'm not there, if I don't go by if I'm not giving a charge to that hub, there's no other reason for the energy to come there. This is how you start understanding what frequency. This is how you really start understanding your frequency and where you're at. Like me sitting in my space right now, you like the way that I work, the way my work ethic, everything that I do is streamlined. It's streamlined. It's this like this pure fucking energy. I'm moving off pure fucking potential energy. There's nothing to stop me anymore. There's nothing to stop me from doing what the fuck I need to do. The things that come up now, based on the things that I need to do, I have a deeper understanding, or I can reflect on it faster. So if like, this is you shifting, literally shifting this is shifting that frequency. My mind don't think in negative. My mind don't think in worry. My mind, I understand negative, I understand positive. If it's negative and how it can serve me, if it's positive, how can it serve me? If it don't serve me, then it don't serve me. That's my entire my spectrum is now wider based in that thought process. So when I'm looking at things in that different, when you start looking at things on this different space, everything that you're looking at is potential food for you to eat. Because I can't look, it's like my mind no longer can compute the lower frequency shit. I have an understanding for it. I have compassion for it, but I also have boundaries in place so I can filter the emotional or the dead aspects of it so I can pull that information into myself, into this space to understand it. So now everything that comes up to me is going to be based upon higher and not on the lower bodies or aspects. This is you coming into your true self. This is being truly the aspect of being truly selfish. Because the selfish get, I remember being told when I was little, if you're selfish, you going to hell. And if you meekful, you're going to inherit the earth. That shit never sat right with me. You mean don't be selfish or I'm going to hell? Don't that sound kind of selfish? That thought in itself that sounded selfish. So you mean don't be selfish and I'm going to go to hell. I won't go to hell. Okay. But then meanwhile, I'm being nice. I'm being over. So instead of learning balance, I'm being overly nice. I'm trying to be overly nice. I'm putting my energy in positions where I'm overly nice. So people are seeing me in a certain way, their perception. So now I got to look at this person's perception of me. I got to change myself to their perception. I'm changing myself to their perception. I'm changing myself to their perception. So now I have no boundaries because I'm trying to make everybody fucking like me because I'm not understanding the aspects to myself. So now that I'm not charging myself, my only charge is coming from their perception. I got to keep those individuals around me. I got to keep everything on that frequency in my life. Until I was like, you know what? What does selfish mean? Yeah. What does selfish mean? Selfish means to become. Selfless means to go without. I don't want to go without. So selfless is to go without. So if I study the Gnostic text, the Book of Thomas, these aspects, I might go pull the book out. We might get into that. But if I take myself into the aspect of ignorance, the byproduct of ignorance is sin. Sin simply means lack of knowledge, lack of knowing, lack of knowledge. So a sinner, by that definition, is somebody that acts with a lack of knowledge or within the aspect of ignorance or the foolish one. So if I know myself, the more that I know myself, the more that I love myself, the more that I put self-awareness in myself, the better my life is becoming. That's the definition of to become selfish. So being selfish is my key. So why can't I embrace being selfish or the knowledge of self? Because I'm still stuck within a space of I'm going to go to hell. What is hell? Hell is my lower state. I'm already in. So I'm staying in my lower. So you mean if I'm selfish in the human term, I stay in my lower self. If I'm meekful in that same space, that means I inherit. What am I inheriting? I don't want to inherit the earth. Nowhere in none of the text to which you come back here. Yeah. You take that aspect of nowhere in any scripture that I've read, the Torah, I studied I was a fucking Catholic. I went to fucking catechism. I experienced that, so y'all didn't have to go through that. I went to catechism. Nowhere in any of these texts, every single text ends in reincarnation. Every spiritual text ends in the aspect of reincarnation. It's a reincarnation story. You coming back here? The Kabbalah says Earth is the prison planet. Every other bit of knowledge outside of that spectrum, outside of the good and bad, that's in within positive and negative, in the higher aspects of my sciences, all tell me that this is the prison planet. I don't want to inherit the prison. Most motherfuckers are happy that they want to inherit the prison. This is why you have so many individuals right now, even in the conscious state, still trying to get together and build something here. You ain't building nothing here. Period. You have now, I'll put it like this. The best space right now for everything you want. Why I pledged COVID-19 saved my fucking life is it opened up the doors for everything forever that you already wanted anyway. You wanted your kids to have a better education, and you wanted to be able to have them have a better education. Kids can now learn online at the fucking house. So all those books that you have been reading, so all of these nice little books that you've been reading throughout your fucking studies and becoming conscious, all your astrology books and books on 100 symbols and all these other books that you've been fucking reading. Now that you have your kid at the fucking house, now that they're at the fucking house, and they literally can Google anything, what's stopping you from saying, hey, Google this? It's hard to become certified as a homeschool student. It's hard to become certified as a homeschool teacher. It is, but it's only as hard if you're trying to still interface with that aspect. What do you want your child to do? You're putting yourself into a space based on that same hope paradigm because you're still stuck within the same paradox. That's what it's being able to show you. So if I'm inside of a space where for me, doing everything that I do from therapy sessions, everything that I do in a whole, the only thing that I have they're always going to learn more at the house. Me and my space where I'm at right now is like, I always look at my man Derek Grace too if you don't follow him on Instagram. I don't have the I don't need that certification to teach what I teach, because what I'm teaching is outside of the spectrum of what they would certify anyway. I would have killed. I would have killed for a teacher. If I had a teacher like me, the closest to a teacher I had like me that I can, like, if I could go back, 8th grade, my algebra teacher, coolest nigga under the fucking sun. The way this nigga talked, the way this nigga held himself, the way he taught, the way he was, that was my 8th grade teacher in algebra. Nigga, I loved, after I hated algebra up to the 8th grade. And when I took every lesson that he taught me, how he taught me, he was teaching us algebra based. It was crazy he was teaching us algebra through a metaphysical lens, and we didn't even realize it because we didn't really pay attention to it. The only other teacher that I had 3 teachers that stuck out to me. My music teacher in the 6th and 7th grade, my algebra teacher in the 8th grade, and my shop teacher when I was like in middle school. 3 teachers, 3 black guys. Nigga, my math teacher was fucking Thoth energy. My math teacher was fucking music. My math teacher was Pan energy. That nigga was like this nigga was like smooth with all the chicks. That nigga was pure fucking Pan energy. And my shop teacher, that nigga was fucking no, it wasn't my shop teacher. Fuck my shop teacher. Nigga was weird. No, not my shop teacher. But I had one other teacher. The third teacher, I can't even remember. He'll come to me. She was a she. She was fucking, no, it wasn't a teacher. It was my 7th grade, the 7th grade assistant principal, Miss Thompson. She always had something leopard on. She was straight Sekhmet energy all day. I love going to, I wouldn't even be in trouble and I would end up in her office. I wouldn't even be in trouble. I end up in her office because her energy was in that space. That's good. And these become those key neurons. The reason that I remember these points and I brought them up is because those are the people those are going to be your gateways back into your childhood life. When you're finding these points and key points of access, when you're understanding that everything that happened in your life that you had control over, but it's not the sense of control it's not the sense of control based on the definition of what you mean. I got this happened to me. You mean that this happened to me? You got to get over the emotional aspect. You got to get over the emotional aspect. It happened to you. Yes, it happened to you. And yes, it was something that was horrible that happened to you. And to that aspect, it was something bad to that point. But you have to realize that shit had to happen in order for it to spark something. So when you go back to it, when we study the fucking text of understanding, when we study the text of the priest, and go to the Gnostic text, the Coptic priest, the Gnostic text, when you study the text and they're telling you about those gateways on those doors and how on this door it got this sigil that symbol was created based upon trauma. Or we think about the gateways for a shaman. When you go through that gateway, it's based upon trauma. If your human self ain't ready for that shit, you can't go through it. The only way to go through that is to denounce the aspect of, you have to humble yourself to allow that shock to hit you. This is why most of the times when motherfuckers get initiated, they always do. That's why initiations in college, when they was hazing motherfuckers, I never joined a fraternity. It just never sat right for me. It just something that I didn't want to do. Was like, nigga, I don't need to do that shit. But like, that's why that becomes the initiation is always that trauma. Yeah. You need that trigger. Because without that trigger, you're not going to go through that door like you need to. You're going to go through that door to say, you're going to go through that door as a human, and it's going to, and you're going to get stuck there. You don't need a reason to get, you don't want to, the whole goal and purpose is so you're able to detach. So this gives you further layer of understanding why the trauma, why the bad shit, why all this shit happened, why all this thing, why all these things, all these calamities happen, and so you don't come back. When you embrace that factor, you don't get stuck within the loop of the space. You're not like, oh shit, I gotta repeat, because man, I was still stuck in the point when I wanted that dog, and my mom said I couldn't have a dog, and now my mom said I couldn't get a dog when I was little, so when I got older, I got a dog, but all my dogs kept dying. Nigga, the universe is telling you, nigga, you ain't supposed to have a fucking dog. Remove the attachment. The dog was not meant for that aspect. What did the dog represent for you? What did the dog represent? Create the aspect of what that dog represented for you. And then you'll understand why you couldn't keep the dog. You understand why you couldn't keep that. You understand why that relationship didn't work. Because it fulfilled itself. You came into that first 6 months of a relationship. You didn't get what you wanted to get out of it or whatever it may be in that space. The relationship ended fucking horribly bad. Yeah. Most of your friends are frenemies anyway. Most of your family is family. The best way that I used to describe family was me having my roots within the islands. I was like, family with a Y was like, why are they family? And in familia was always family. They were always in the aspect of what true family was. They had the true family values. My familia, everybody that's familiar to me has transitioned. Everybody that is familiar to me has transitioned. Everybody that is family to me is still here. So all of those Y's are still here. I understand the variable of that Y, and I've solved the formula to that Y. So now I'm like, nigga, I don't have to connect to them anymore. They just don't, like, if I see them in the street, they don't even recognize me anymore. Not even in like that's the physical aspect. They don't even notice me anymore. They gotta double take. They gotta look at me. They gotta look at me twice. Damn, nigga, I ain't seen you in like 18 months, or I ain't seen you in years, man. You look real good. And this every time that I see somebody that I don't deal with anymore for whatever reason it was, this outgrown that space, my frequency on the same, and they do notice me. It's always the same thing. It's the spirit saying, like, they're gonna tell you the same thing. And I can almost say it. I say it in my head word for word. Yeah, all the good ones. That's a perfect mantra. So when my mom's sitting there, like, yeah, they're all gone. Like, I'm just sitting there, like, I'm sitting there before I even see them. I have the conversation in my head. If this individual was to turn around and notice me, I've already had the conversation, but that's so raving the conversation in my head. They're going to say, damn, it's been a minute. Yo, we need to hook up. We need to link up. or some other arbitrary shit that really don't fucking matter to me, and I go on about my day. There's no reason for me to have a conversation with them. There's no reason for me to go any further with them, because just based off that initial conversation and the energy that I got off of it. So that why, that family, that variable of that why is already been answered. So I clearly can be like, you know what? Why were they family? And then I can simplify that down into the simplest reason. If I can give this simple reason, like, oh, they were my sister, that was my brother, that was my mom, that was my dad, my brother was my son in one life, my sister was my mom in one life, and all of these aspects, I can just look at the aspect and see what it is. Like my littlest sister right now, that was my daughter in my past life. She was like my daughter in my past life. The way that she connected to me, the way family always asks me, see any comment on something they always mention. Yeah. The way that my sister interfaced with me up until a point of that, when our separation, when I realized it, my sister was like a daughter figure to me back in my past. Like I was just, that was my daughter. The way I interact with my sister, that was like legit my daughter in one life. In another life, she was like my big sister. In another life, she was like, there was always a connection there. But understanding that connection and why it never goes any past a certain point is because now I understand the connection. So now I have the choice. This is also another part in your choice. If that contract has to be reinitiated for any reason, let's say they have a contract, they come into their awareness. The level that this is why you have to be doing your work and allow your energy to do everything. Your energy is going to do what it needs to do. Your energy is naturally going to matriculate and do what it needs to do. So if they need to connect to you at another point in time, why would you want them to connect to you at the same shit that you've been doing already? This is where most people get in that emotional aspect when they're dealing with people. You start talking to people, you dealing with people, and they're looking for a reason to connect to you, and they're like, damn, you ain't changed a bit. That's something that I do not want to hear, that I have not changed a bit. Use a damn lie. That means your perception of me won't take you past the questions. They're still not going to be open enough to even ask any questions because my energy hasn't changed in that space as much as I thought it did. They're still viewing me the same. They're still coming at me with the same things. And also the same reason why people are going to keep coming at you with that same shit. They're going to keep coming at you with the same shit to see if they still can connect to you. They're going to come at you with the same stories. Yo, you didn't change and all this shit. And that's going to be based on that frequency of that emotion to see if they're going to try to get that emotion out of you to see if you're going to be like, nah, man, I ain't changed. I'm still the same dude. Da-da-da. Nah, I'm different. You're going to have to get to know me all over again. I don't even eat the same. I don't even eat the same. Yes, your family becomes family, friends, all of these old aspects and the old wavelengths. They're distractions. They're the same distractions when I was talking about earlier. The distraction, when the universe is bringing you into a new space, it also brings down the corresponding aspect that can be the distraction to see which side you're going to choose. Because this is your aspect of, this is demonstrating your aspect of free will. You can make whatever choice you want. Your life is that book that we had in elementary, that book you had when you were little, where you can choose your own ending. That's what that shit is like. So here's what you're wanting. Here's what you're aspiring to get to. But on the same other line is something that can distract you. Which one are you going to choose? And then based on which one let's say you choose to fall into the distraction. Now you stuck. The distraction, the only trap with the soul trap is when you trapped in that distraction, it's actually a cipher. So when you hit it, it closes, it locks you in. So now you have to deal with the layers of this ring, the rings of this space before you can even get back to what you were needing to do. So then you feel like, damn, nigga, I done ran out of, if you feel like you're rushing, you feel like you don't have enough time in the day, if you're always feeling tired, if you're always feeling that you never can say no, if you're feeling the aspect of guilt, yeah. Wait. Yeah. The key to the evolutionary process of you is like you're gonna unlearn, relearn, unlearn again, relearn, unlearn again, relearn. Because the keys of you unlearning and relearning, going through those cycles of these spaces, is so you're breaking the attachments, so you can further connect. Because on this, as above, so below. So as you're rising up, the things down here, like say, okay, I unlearned this, then I unlearned this, then I relearned something else. I unlearned this, then I unlearned this. So it's like I unlearned this, then I learned this. Then I unlearned this, then I learned this. Then I unlearned this, then I learned this. Then I'm going down this, I'm going through this matrix. So now both mirrors are the same. So now when my shift happens, I have to unlearn this to learn this. I have to learn this and learn this. Yeah, lately you've been spooking yourself. Spooking myself, I talk myself through it, if that makes sense. Yeah, you're going to scare the shit out of yourself. I remember in my first aspects of I remember before I even like started realizing the magical aspects of myself, like just being able to do certain things, I started I even till like this day, like 3 days ago, my ability to be able to close my eyes and still see shit kicked in. Like, think about, like, you know, when you see lizards and crocodiles and lizards, like that film that goes over their eyes so they can go underwater with their eyes still open. I remember 4 nights ago, I was laying down, my eyes were fully fucking closed. But then I was like looking, because like I'm laying in the bed, I looked over, and I'm like, why can I see the curtain on the door? And my eyes are closed. Like, I saw the shit too fucking clear. And when I came to, I'm like, I haven't even opened my eyes yet, but I can see this shit clear as fucking day. That let me know that my sight is becoming stronger, so I can close my eyes and see shit. If anybody tuned into the God Hour show Tuesday, the God Hour show last Tuesday, Tuesday, after I was done doing the readings and setting up other consults and everything like that, I got up, walked in the bathroom. The light was off in the bathroom. But my eyes, everything was like red, purple, blue. Cause my eyes were closed. I don't know why. I don't know what told me to walk into the bathroom with my eyes fucking closed. I walked in the bathroom with my eyes closed. Actually, yeah, my eyes were closed for a little bit. I just blinked. I opened my eyes, and everything in the room was red. Everything was in the room was like red, this whole different spectrum of light. And then I was like, nigga, am I seeing both realms? Like, I'm literally learning. I'm literally seeing myself seeing both fucking aspects of realm, like seeing different shit. This like, and this is why I tell people, like, if you don't go through this aspect of work that you need to go through, that you're not going to be able to embrace any of the cool shit, the shit that you're really supposed to be doing, the shit that's based on your fucking purpose. Because everything that you need is going to be in the potential of the unknown. You want to teach somebody, it's going to be in the unknown. You want to learn from somebody else, you want to learn and be challenged, it's going to be in the unknown. Nothing you need is going to be here, period. You have an entire table of contents that shows you nothing is here. Everything down here is meant. Everything down here, as everything down here constricts in the cone, because it's a cone. It's literally like the frequency is based on that cone model. Everything down here is based on a cone. Everything at the bottom is the most concentrated. What is the most concentrated and constricting aspect? Fear. And everything is rooted out of that fear. When you're down here in this aspect of your everything that you're creating yourself upon is going to be based upon fear. So fear, guilt, fear, then fear conspires to the guilt, to the grief, to the guilt, to the anxiety, to that state of apathy. And as you go up, your shit expands. Because everything down here everything below that line, that imaginary, this line, that neutral point, everything below the neutral point is moving at a wavelength that's faster. That fear wavelength. It has to constantly keep charging itself, finding charges. It has to constantly, you'll notice somebody that's always running fast as fuck. They say that they're multitasking, but they're not getting anything done. And at the end of the day, you felt like you were running around. You ran around all day, but you ain't do shit. Because you were running around chasing the distractions. Most people are chasing the distractions. Most individuals in that space are chasing those reactions under the distractions. And then you're going to start noticing that when you're doing your work and you're in your space and you're in your peace, when you have created your auric field or your angelic light around yourself and you in your space, you're going to notice motherfuckers going to keep trying to come at you and they can't reach you anymore. And it's going to come up in the form of, nigga, they call you and you didn't answer your phone. You don't have no sense of worry why they call to answer them. You have no sense of worry. There's people that I just don't even see anymore. I know them. And the only reason that I see them now is like based on a picture. They come up in a memory. But there's nothing really, there's like no, I can like, congratulations, happy birthday, whatever it may be, and go on about my business. There is no, yo, we need to link up, man. We ain't talking. That doesn't exist for me. That aspect doesn't exist for me anymore. And then you're gonna have people that are gonna tell you, man, that people are gonna give you this perception of everybody. I remember for a long time, people were like, yo, nigga, you antisocial as fuck. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm really not. You're just not in any of the space. You're not within the spaces that I go to frequently. So I'm not antisocial. I can't be antisocial. I can be in this level. I can be an introvert, but I'm omnipresent. I'm a God. I'm omnipresent. So I'm everywhere. I'm of everywhere. So how can I be an introvert? By the definition that you've given it, that's not me. I'm not in those spaces anymore. You just can't see me. Ride right up. I can ride right past you up and down the street. I can be running. And if you would like, basically, I put it like this. If I go for a run and you ain't never ran a day in your life, and you in your car in traffic, you in your car and you speeding by and say you late for work, are you going to see me running? I remember for a point in time, like when I would just walk to work. I used to like walking to work. And I will always get the same when I get to work, and if somebody drove past me that worked with me, it'd be like, yo, I saw you walking to work. I remember at first I'd be like, in my mind, I'd be like, and nigga, you didn't give me a ride. And then I started noticing they would see me, and every time they'd be like, yo, I saw you walking to work. And I would say it to myself, nigga, you didn't give me a ride. I started noticing I got stuck within that time loop. They weren't asking because I wasn't saying that you didn't give me a ride. I was not finishing the circuit. So the shit just kept repeating itself. But now I was like, when I started explaining, not for them to understand, didn't give a fuck. But it was based on like, nigga, I like walking to work. And then I make a joke like, nigga, like you need to walk to work. Pat them on their stomach. Like, nigga, like you need to walk to work once in a while. Hey, yeah, man, I do need to work out a little bit, man. I'm getting it. Yeah, man, I do need to work out a little bit, have a laugh, and then go on about my business. Because that's all you're doing within this space. Say your shit, get out. Stop trying to stay too long in these aspects because it's serving you no purpose. For me, my aspect is building. I'm a builder. I'm a teacher into those aspects. So everything around me is going to be based upon building and teaching. That's what's around me. That's what I'm always going to align with. I'm always going to align with creators, the creative aspects. I'm always going to connect with the builders. I'm always going to connect with these. Those are the aspects that I'm always connect with. That's the frequency that I'm in. That's within the frequency of my way. That's within the frequencies of the wavelength that I'm on. So anybody that's not creative, anybody that's not in a creative mindset or embrace or not aspiring to step into the creative mindset, they don't connect to me. Their vibration doesn't match mine. And this is what happens for a lot. This is what happens for individuals that are coming into their awareness. They're looking for people to match their frequency. They're looking for people to match the imagery of their lower frequency. I ain't got any friends. You ain't never had any friends because you brought that into the space. You ain't never had any friends. I had to become comfortable. Like, nigga, I never really had any friends. Everybody that would fuck with me at a point in time, they were around me because they just didn't want to be against me. That was one of the biggest ego deaths for fucking days. For one of the biggest ego deaths for me was like motherfuckers literally, yeah. We choose anarchy all day. But like this from my space, I'll be like, the individuals that were around me was like, I remember one time, the last conversation I had about that topic with one of my homies that was one of my brothers in that point in time, in that space, in that quadrant of my life. He was like, I remember I told him, he was like, yo, I'm glad I'm on your side. And then that was the spark that I needed to realize that was the spark that when you reach true enlightenment, you can't explain it at that point in time. You can't explain it at that point in time. It doesn't work. Trust, it doesn't work. If you still can explain it, it wasn't enlightenment. If it didn't give you that, damn, if it didn't hit you with that, I get it now. Wait. And it made you sit down and really think, but it wasn't thinking based on trying to make the answer make sense. It wasn't thinking based on trying to make it fit fundamental logic. It was more like in the space of, I always knew that, but I didn't understand it. But now I understand it because I know it. Let me explore it some more. That's enlightenment. Whenever I'm sitting here on the day when I put together music for the podcast and like I find a chord or a loop or I play with a button, I hit something and to make a sound, that shit fucking, I'm like, after I'm done with it, I'm like, nigga, that shit's awesome. I didn't even know I could do that. That's my aspect of me teaching, training my awakened self. Always wanting to do something new. I do not have that cutoff valve or that valve that's going to stop me, like maybe I shouldn't do it this week or maybe I should stop. I don't have that. I don't have that. It's always I love the aspect of anarchy. Now my body, but also remember, because it takes a lot more discipline to do what you want than to do what you can. Also within my disciplines, I noticed that I'm more like Goku in these terms of when I go to, like, let's say when I go to the gym in the AM. I go to the gym between 6:30 and about 8:15. I'm at the gym. I'll say about 6:15 to about 8:15. I'm at the gym, full workout mode. I kill my entire body. By the time I'm leaving from the gym, if I got to stop by somewhere, yeah. I'm actually starting that. Yeah. That's actually I am actually working on the aspects of like actually doing season 4 is actually the live aspect where I want to actually do traveling aspects of like interviews. Like, for example, like my brother that just chimed in, like him going through his journey, going to where he's at, and then we meet up and then we do a live aspect, like a live podcast, like video, the live video aspect. And like he explained, like that's that interactive interview to that. That's that next level for that. That's actually crazy on that this oh shit. I'm gonna put myself on. That's being in sync on that. But like that's your thought process. Your mindset is always going to be hunger for more, because genius is simply wanting to know, wanting to do more. So when you think about these aspects from algebra, calculus, quantum mechanics, all of these things, I remember listening to a Styles P interview way back. It was like years ago. Styles P did an interview and he was like, you are fucking talented. You are a fucking genius, young man. And he was like, for us, the reason that we get attached to sports and things of that nature, or sports, or the mechanics in sports, games, and all of these aspects, these are actually real life, these are actually physical manifestations of our natural just doing it. That's how we learn. We learn. Our natural aspect is to learn by doing. Whenever you thought about the aspect of, you think about how we learned in a whole aspect, you think about when back in the days of when motherfuckers would use Africa in that aspect. Whenever they learned about a tree, whenever they were like learning agriculture, whatever they were learning, they learned about the tree by being around the tree. They learned the history of the tree, the stories of the tree, the everything within that tree, because we learned based on a larger aspect. That's how we process things. That's why it's so natural for us to indulge ourselves into trauma, because we're feeling the void based on the left-handed aspect. We're trying to fill this entire void that is the complete mind on one side. That's why we always have an imbalance, because we don't want to go to the middle point and understand the other side. What did I create from this? Because we're trying to make everything logically sound. I didn't have, like, I'll use it like this. If I was still stuck within the trauma of not knowing if I did not ever get to the point of the why, if I was stuck in the why my mother didn't tell me about my father, for example, I was stuck within that space of my mother not telling me about my father, I would not be able to have a channel with my aunt, which was my mother in a past life. My aunt that introduced me to my father, or told my mom that I need to see he needs to see who his father is. I would have not understand that nurturing concept. And the reason that she did that is because she was a mother in a past. In one of my past cycles, she was my mother. I wouldn't have been able to see that aspect. I needed that shock to my fucking system. I don't know why I just thought about static shock. That shock to my system to truly experience that. So I could observe it from the other side. Damn, it makes more sense when I look at it this way, because this person introduced me. Why would my mother would not be able to, my mother in that aspect of who I defined as my mother was not open as my aunt was. My aunt was in a different position. When you think about your aunt, your uncle, your grandmother, for me in that aspect, like they're the open ones. You don't have to go home with them. They ain't gotta, so the rules with them are more lenient or in a more broad spectrum. So the only way that I could get that information was from a more broad space. So now when I look at the aspect of understanding information now, I have one that becomes one of my examples. That's one of those gateways for me to actually go through. And now that my aunt is transition, that's open energy. Because my aunt served her purpose. Because I think 4 years, but probably like 5 or 6 years after I met my pops, my aunt transitioned, and she told me, like, she came through on the channel and she told me, like, I served my purpose. I did what I needed to do. I needed you were supposed to meet your father. That was my purpose. That was my purpose. I needed you to meet I needed you to meet him. That was my purpose. And when you start interfacing with your energy, these basic aspects allow you to go to the higher aspects. Like before I even came on, I have a ritual that I set up to do every Friday before I come on. I go pick up candles, I go grab herbs, I put herbs together and shit, set up the altars, set this altar up over here. I got real jazzy. It was like, nigga, let me do some different shit. I put my sigils on some candles over here. One of my candles is acting crazy because it has my sigil on it, my actual sigil for the Papa Lucifer sigil that embodies the aspects of Papa Legba, Baron Samni, Lucifer, Shiva, Lilith, Kali, energy. Like I put that on my sigil, built it, did my shit, and I sat there and I meditated. I grabbed my singing bowl because this is my process. Got my singing bowl, hit it, did my visualization, went into my space, sat the bowl down and went into meditation. Now I got flipped. Like today was hilarious for me because usually it's like a nice cool laying down for me. But like I got flicked in the forehead, 5-10 minutes. I'm assuming I'm trying to speculate this amount of time. But then 5 minutes, I felt like I got kicked in I got hit in the damn throat. And then when I came back up to a sitting position, the picture that's on my Facebook page, the picture that's on my page, I don't know why the name just left my head. That is Kali. It's not Kali. It's the aspect of Kali. It's Durja. Fuck. I can't remember the goddamn name. And that goddess just came through to me. I don't want to say her name wrong. Durga. Yeah, Durga. Durga came through. Yeah, I didn't want to disrespect her. She came through those eyes that are in that picture, because I'm doing more tapestry. I'm actually doing a Durga tapestry. That's gonna be the one that might be for my personal collection. Don't know yet. But like those eyes were the eyes that I was seeing as I was going under. Those eyes were the eyes that I was seeing as I was going under. And then that she licked my face, and then I came through. Heard. She licked the side of my face, and we had a nice little conversation. And I was like, damn, all right, bet. She was the one that actually gave me the information regarding to the aspects of exploring the aspects of the soul contracts and gave me a lot of other information. I'm still downloading that information. That shit's still coming through. I'm gonna have all that shit. I'm doing Papa Lucy Sunday's coverage comes back this Sunday, so I'm gonna tap into that. But basically, that energy of that space is signaling the same. It's like within that wavelength, same as the Tiamat energy, the great mothers, those great mothers, the destroyed aspects, that chaotic aspect, that chaos creates the consistency of the anarchy coming into that space, that nurturing aspect, nurturing the chaos, nurturing through the chaos, understanding that you have to, that chaos is going to allow yourself to actually start cutting these fucking cords. Doing this process right now, that's why I made that cord cutting ritual, the cord cutting reading became available earlier today. It was because that came through in that download for me to do. So I dropped that down. It's 1313. But that's your space where you're at right now. This is your cord cutting ceremony or the ribbon cutting ceremony into your new shit. So everything that you're wanting to do, the 1111 portal that came through, the 1111 portal came through, of course, on the 11th. And then you got Friday the 13th right now. These are two big aspects of energy, wavelengths of the portals and energy for you to actually come into your aspects of your stability, your aspects of your consistency, your aspects of building that 1111 portal was opening up to your works in that space. I did that reading. It's on the page. That's the readings on the channel. I did that reading. That reading came through. The reading when I did the 10 of wands, the 4 of wands, and the 8 of swords. So this is that period of you coming out of that space and now centering yourself in that sense of self-reflection and cutting away the things that no longer are needed. Throughout the entire week, like the first card I pulled was the Page of Wands. Page of Wands meant as the aspects of standing firm in your aspects, grounding yourself. This is the time. You're supposed to be grounding yourself. That decision to ground yourself, the things that have came up based upon those energies and decisions that you've made. It's time to meditate on those. It's time to meditate in the aspect of what you want to achieve going forward. And that's why the 8 of cups, the 8 of swords is the aspect of celebrating, of releasing, because the seven of swords is the aspects of the things that were holding you back. And the 8 of swords is the releasing and now creating the boundaries of the things that were setting you back. This is you cutting those cords. This is you removing yourself from the space that no longer serves you. This is not the time for you to be sitting there. This is not a time of love and light. I'm going to say that now. Mean that from the bottom of my 6 hearts. Mean that from the bottom of the 6 hearts of the 6 pits of myself. Nigga, this is not the time for love and light. Not for anything external. This is all aspects of love for yourself. This is all times. This is actually love in its higher form based on the aspect of chaos. Everything that you get right now based on fucking chaos, that's the shit that you need right the fuck now. You need this shit. You need these triggers. You need this shit to actually start. You need these things to actually start helping you process the healing. You need all that shit that you were worried about. what about this person? If they can't come with you, if your spirit is telling you to move somewhere or go somewhere or leave or go to some new space, and you worried about what about my mother and what about my significant other or what about this person or whatever it may be, if they're not directly connected to you based on as a child, they ain't coming with you. You got to be real with yourself. Be totally fucking honest. This is you're doing this for you. The shit that you're doing now is for you. You're putting yourself first. As you put yourself first, you're able to understand the reason why it was hard for you to put yourself first. At a point in time, we want to be selfless. We want to be selfless and caring, and this image we're trying to maintain because I don't want to look like I'm fucking heartless. I don't want to look like I'm an asshole. I don't want to look like this. Let them look at you the way they're going to look at you. That's their perception. Because if you allow yourself to stay within that space, you're going to start noticing that they're going to start projecting shit onto you that ain't even you anyway. Most of the things motherfuckers are projecting on you, most of the things that fall off when you start burning away things, burning them bridges, when you start burning and kicking things away from your life, most of the things that start falling away, that shit was the furthest from you. Most of that shit was actually the furthest from the aspects of the true aspects of you. And that's what you're noticing now. Everything is literally internal. That major key of studying all and following none, that's been a fucking mantra I've been speaking for a month, like damn near a year now. Ever since I started doing the fucking, study all and follow none is still one of the strongest mantras that I use at every fucking point in time. Understanding that everything is a reflection of me based on how I observe it is one of the key aspects of you transitioning. Everything is a reflection of you based on observing it. If you did not directly experience it, you don't have to experience it. You have other things that are going to come into that space that are going to give you that experience. When did I get a moderator team? When the hell did I get a moderator team? Because I definitely didn't set up a moderator team. Oh, okay, cool. But as you coming into this space, realizing yourself, everything that you're doing now is you're embracing the intimate power of yourself. That is the aspect of knowing yourself. In knowing myself, I know that there's still more. In knowing myself, I'm humble to understand that I do not know everything about myself. I understand that there was shit that I said back in. There's shit that's coming up on my timeline, in my memories. I might start sharing my memories. There's shit that I said in my memories that I didn't even understand it when I said it at that point. But it comes back up and it makes more sense now than it did then. Because I'm literally speaking ahead of myself. Everything you're doing based on that new tech, the new knowledge, the new information that's coming down, you're speaking ahead of yourself. You're speaking everything, remember, because everything that you speak, you're speaking into that void, into your potential energy, into that void. So if I speak to myself that I'm going to be, nigga, I ain't never gonna make $1 million, I'm speaking that literally into that void in my potential energy. So as I keep moving forward, The only way that that individual exists is if the only way that that thought form exists is if I remain that same individual. So there's things for me now that back in the fucking day for myself, there was things that I aspired to be. Damn near everything that I ever aspired to be don't even fucking exist anymore. I can't even fathom remembering, damn, I was that way anymore. And I'm fucking totally fucking comfortable with that. There's nothing in me that's like, man, I wish I could go back and change 1996. Or I wish I could go back and change 1999. There's not a year I want to change. There's not a moment in my life that I want to change, period. There's nothing I want to take back. There's nothing I want to change over. There's nothing I want to flip. There's nothing I want to go back. Man, I wish I could go back and tell I remember for a while, I was like, yo, if I could go back and tell my 12-year-old self to start this save every fucking day, I'd be a millionaire right now. No, I wouldn't. Because I didn't have this information then. The only way that I can go back there is the only way I go back is by going back and apologizing to that form of myself so I can put it to rest. Because I'm changing the definition. Everything I'm doing now changes. Everything you do now in your present state changes your past. Because you no longer are that individual. So you no longer have attachments to those aspects. That's how your past changes. Since my past changes, now my future changes. Because I'm no longer activated in the aspect of who I was back here. Because as long as I'm existing back here, as long as I'm living back here, I'm only existing here based on those mentalities, based on those behavioral patterns to make everything here match here. I don't want none of my shit to look like back there. I already did that shit. I experienced it, loved it. It was beautiful. It was great. Had some bad shit happen. Had some shit that I don't like. But now I understand why it happened. I had some good shit that happened. I had some great fucking memories. But they're just that. They're memories. What did I learn from that memory? Just like I got to learn from the bad aspects. It's easy to learn from the good aspects of your life. But can you really learn from the negative aspects? That's what you need to learn from. If I'm only focusing on the positive things that happen in my life, if I focused on the positive things that happen in my life, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now. I have no hair. I'd have no beard. What time is it right now? It's 10:15. I'd probably be sitting inside of some restaurant, probably going bald, stressing over how I'm gonna keep all my employees getting their money and all this other shit. I'll be doing something totally different. It would be an equivalent to this space. This is how you bring it into understanding and the focus and clarity. It would be equivalent to this space based on the energy, but it would be a different image. So when you're looking back at your past lives, you're looking for the ability to change the definition so you can unlock that energy. When you're doing your shadow work, you're literally going back into your past self with the knowledge that you have now, taking it back there and applying it to that definition to unlock that energy. This is why everything that happened behind you back in the day don't fucking matter anymore, because it happened. Now what? Now what? Now what do you want to do? You want to go back over there and do it? You want to go talk about it? You want to talk about it? You want to relive it? You want to escape from it still? Putting your whole life in most people right now, the people that are no longer on your frequency. They're not in your wavelength. They're not in your path. They're stuck in escape rooms. That labyrinth that was created based upon your original contract, your original algorithms, that original quantum state where you were at when you came down here, that maze has now augmented itself and has locked them in there. So now they're running around in the maze. The only reason that you can notice that now that you're above it, you look down into the labyrinth and you're like, damn, they're like mice running around looking for cheese and whatever is over here and over here and over here and over here. You're in observer mode. The more compassion that you have, the more that you're able to observe. The less compassion you have, the less you're able to observe. Because if I'm stuck in caring, I can't observe because I'm too busy trying to pick a side. I have total compassion, so I can just go outside and just look at shit and be like, damn, that's crazy. If it resonates with me, I'll look at it and be like, cool. Learn from it and keep moving forward. That's you kicking your energy into gear. My sleep patterns aren't even the same anymore. I don't even sleep. I'm literally, when I lay down during like a regular, like other than the night, like when I lay down, I'm usually laying down by like 10 or 11, but I'm in a state of meditation. I'm noticing that I never really go to sleep. And by the time I go to sleep, it's like when my body actually goes to sleep, it's 30 minutes before I actually have to get up. Like I spend my time in trance, I spend myself in this trance state till about 3 o'clock. 3 o'clock, I'm up, I'm gone, I'm not here. I'm just out of my body, I'm just gone, doing my thing. And then around 5 o'clock, when I'm coming back down from my high, for lack of a better word at this point in time, when I come back down, I spend 30 minutes sleep. Then I'm up. I'm noticing that my sleep patterns are different. I don't sleep. I notice that I'm in a whole different space. I'm noticing things more clearly. I'm noticing things more on that space because my frequency has changed. I see that my frequency has changed. It's one aspect to admit that, damn, nigga, I'm just not the same anymore, but it's a whole nother aspect to acknowledge it. Because once you acknowledge these things, once you acknowledge the aspect of whatever trauma it may be and all these aspects of yourself, that's when you actually start being honesty and building your clarity. That's when the things start becoming more clear to you of why you had to go through what you went through. And then you always have that Rolodex. Oh, yeah, that's what I wanted to say. I meant to say that at the beginning of the lecture. A good book to get when it comes to understanding and decoding your soul contract, I wrote it down at the top of my list. Because I've subscribed the book. I just haven't bought the book again. Your Soul Contract Decoded by Nicholas David Negan. Nicholas, Nicolas, David, David, Negan, Ngan. Great book to get when it talks about the aspects of decoding the soul contracts, understanding the soul ties, cutting away, allowing yourself to be able to feel the soul tie. Best thing to do, get your black tourmaline, black obsidian stone, and you sit there, you get real quiet, sit in the space with yourself, become real quiet, allow yourself to feel that tether coming to the surface. Focus on that individual, focus on that place. Allow yourself to feel it like a string. Start visualizing a string forming, and you're starting to see it. Then you're making this motion of you cutting it away. And you'll notice that it worked because when you come back to yourself, you're gonna feel lighter. You'll be like, oh shit, nigga, like I feel my energy coming back. This is what you're cutting off. When you're cutting things off, and the things that are falling away are byproducts. People, places, those are byproducts. The thing that when you really start realizing that you're feeling your energy is when you have defined what it is that had to fall away. How you define what had to fall away is what you learned, what you lost, how you helped, or your impact. I had it written down somewhere. How you impacted that space, what you need to give away, what you need to return. These are aspects that take you closer to cutting that tie. Because for most people, you come to a space, you have residue on your heart because there's something that you still have not returned. That's the aspect of returning that debt, and people holding on to other people's karmic debt. You holding on to that contract with that individual means that you still need debt. So even if you could clear your karmic debt, but since you're still keeping that old contract with that individual, person, place, thing, whatever it may be, now you are taking on their debt. So now that if they haven't dealt with the trauma, so let's say it's a family member and y'all both went through the same trauma and you've dealt with it, their definition of what they are to you has changed because they're no longer that relative. Now that you have dealt with it and you have created your new space, this taps you into, if you are the feminine, then you are the mother. If you're the masculine, then you're the father. This helps you unlock your past life of like, damn, the reason that we both went through this, but I overcame it, is because I was your mother. I'm the mother, you're the daughter. You'll start noticing that, like, if you went through trauma, like let's say you and your siblings went through a traumatic event, and at a point in time you became the mother or the father aspect and taking care of them. You're literally activating in between those realms, the realms or the quantum fields. You're actually activating what you truly were. But you don't notice it because you're like, damn, like you don't know why you took on the father role. You don't know why you took on the mothering role or this nurturing aspect, because you need more clarity. You were the mother at a point in time. You were their mother. That's why when most women have aspects or problems with their mother, and then they find themselves, the roles switch, like they stay in that contract and they're now they're the mother, and then their mother can't take care of themselves and gets to a certain point. It's because they're the daughter. They were the daughter. The roles reverse because you're going back into your true self. But that contract still needs to be, you have to define what the agreement to that contract was. Oh shit, I was the mother. That's why I act more like a mother now, or I act more like the father, or whatever it may be. This is you understanding your contract. This is you stepping outside of that labyrinth. This is you understanding that minotaur that you created, that animal, and that's what we need to talk about, the fucking minotaur aspect. The minotaur aspect of your labyrinth is your urges that are being fed in your animalistic nature, which is within that shadow. So when you think about the minotaur had the body of a man and the head of the bull. And then you read when you read the story, it actually makes sense. There's aspects of the shadow self falling for the animalistic aspect of yourself, and then creating something from it. So when you look at your space based on urges, vices, and all of these things, that's literally what you're doing. You create something from the animal aspect. You're literally creating something based in the animal aspect of yourself. So that became what you created. So what monsters have you created within your life? What truer aspects of yourself have you created within this space? This is why when the ones that have children, your child is actually that physical manifestation of you before all of this. So that becomes like technically your second chance. Now you have to, now that you're in that space, your goal and process is to give them the information. But this is when you're listening to your child, because they didn't come down for you to raise them. They came down for you to raise. They didn't come down here for you to raise them. They came down here to raise you. They came down here to raise you, to teach you some shit. This is seeing it from both sides. Breaking that pattern of, I don't think they're going to be ready for that, or this, and this. And then you're going to start noticing that, we talked about that, going into the aspect of motherfuckers needing your charge. You're going to notice that since you're now accelerating and you jumping into your new quantum field, you're going to start seeing those individuals that now they look more tired. They need your charge. They need your energy. Their purpose was to, their purpose, even the ones motherfuckers that you staying too long in that relationship with individuals, their purpose was to give you a certain amount of charge or a new way to charge yourself. But then you stayed too long and then you got used to how they were charging you. What did they teach you? Outside of the emotional aspect, you gotta go outside of emotion. What did they teach you? This is what you gotta start asking yourself. What did they teach you? Out of everything, boil everything down, burn everything away. What did they teach you? I talked about what my fiance did when I was 19. I've talked about what she did. She taught me that. She taught me the aspect of actually. She taught me a lot about myself that I was not. That I was. She taught me the first aspects of me running away from myself. She taught me who my mother was. In reality, she taught me who my mother was. My mother and my first true real relationship, my mother, they didn't get along because that was my mother. That was the reason that I was so into her and loving with her to this aspect. She was basically she was my fucking mother. And I was, she took like everything that my mother was that was underlining, that's what she showed outwardly. And it took me a long time to realize that, damn, that's my mom. The way that my mother acted, everything that she did was in reflection of what my mother did up to that point. Everything that she did up to that point was what my mother actually did up to that point. She was literally the window into the void, into that space of everything my mother had did up to that point that led to me being created. The only way I was able to tap into that is because she lost the baby. There was something there that there was something there in that space that trauma, the trauma of losing that child unlocked something from it, helped me be able to unlock and go back and be like, damn, and see it in that way. This is how you start using everything. Everything down here is something for you to learn from. How are you using it now that you have maintained it? How are you using this? How are you using these spaces? How are you using this energy in moving forward? None of this shit is meant for you to build anything or create on or loathe in or keep yourself depressed in. Everything's happening for a fucking certain point period in time. It's happening for that reason. That reason is based on you set that up. You had to make your stand somehow. Some of the shit, this shit that I've done that was on the fucking most heinous of levels by human definition. But if I didn't do it, I'd still be stuck in that fucking position. I needed to create that chaos. I needed to create that space so I don't go back to it. This is how you're moving forward. You needed that chaotic moment to trigger that spark so you can actually heal from it. That's why it's there. But the motherfuckers that are stuck within the program, they're happy for it. They're happy for how everything's happening for them. They're happy about their space. That's why they keep doing the same shit that they keep repeating the same thing. They keep repeating the same cycle because they become comfortable within the cycle. It doesn't matter what you give to them. It doesn't matter what you give to them. You can give them fire information. If they ain't ready for it, they ain't ready for it. They ain't ready for it, they ain't ready for it. All you can do is plant the seed. Walk away. Because whether you want to or not, it's going to be forced to that point. It's going to happen regardless. It's going to happen regardless. It's going to come to that point of it's going to come to that point of that volatile point to where it's going to be triggered for the separation to happen, for that to disappear. It no longer is needed in your life. And the further you go ahead, some motherfuckers right now are holding on to dead ass fucking shit, and they're wondering why nothing new is coming into their life. It's because the level that they're at and where they're trying to get to, it doesn't match that frequency that they're on. They want something better for themselves, but they're still activating an old frequency. The wavelength that they're on that wavelength that they're on is under that line. So it's only creating that 2 points of that line. Above that line is potential. Below this line is below this line is all the kinetic energy. So it's touching that line, but it only can pull down so much. And that's the same reflection when people saying they getting information from the higher self. There's a whole fucking documentary on YouTube where they were talking about these shiesty gurus that were giving people the ability to meditate and take them to the astral realm, but they were taking them to the lower level. So they felt like they were going outside of their body. They were going outside of their body, but they weren't going anywhere. So the information, when it was coming down, they're pulling. Most people, if you're staying in the realm that you're in, you're going to pull from that lower realm of energy, because everybody's pulling from the energy. It just depends on how deep you can pierce. It depends on how deep you're piercing that ether. So most motherfuckers are down in this lower level, and they pulling down this information from the lower level, this energy from the lower level, and they got that counterfeit aspect of energy. Them motherfuckers are telling you the motherfuckers that the warriors and the ones that got stuck in movements and became martyrs that need some energy to transition. That's how they're being used. So you thinking about you getting used down. Remember, as above, so below. So if you're continuously getting used down here, that means you're getting used up there. There is an energy that you have connected to that is using you based on that frequency. So you got you up in that space, and you're like, hell yeah, I wanna. But you wondering why you ain't going nowhere, because that energy, that cipher up as above, that counterfeit up here in that space, and they exist. Them lower level archon shits, you want to say the archons, the lower level archons, and the earth gods, we'll call them the earth gods, the ones that maintain them, that the ones that maintain the magnetosphere, that's how they get you. Because you deifying this lower level shit. The niggas that are sitting there deifying the lower level shit, that's what's happening. The motherfuckers that are sitting there still praying and giving offerings to deities and shit instead of becoming the deity, that's the deity that they're going to. Like when you think about the old S, you either are becoming the energy or you are serving the energy. You're either becoming it or you're serving it. When you become it, you can take it higher. When you serve it, it stays where it's at. So somebody can sit there and be like, I built my altar to Oshun or Yeminya or Obatala or whatever. They give their energy based on that aspect of to serve it. It's going to give you what you need because you're going through that process. But now it has to keep you in that state of why you went to it in the first place. You went to it based on depression. You went to it based on you were depressed. You coming from a depressed space. You coming from a space where you feeling like you need more money. You need more work. And it's going to give you things. It's going to give you everything you need, but it has to keep you where you at. That sound familiar to like family members in reflection? That one family member and that one friend that's hollering at you and they give you whatever you need. And then at the end of the day, they tabulated a tab and they're like, yo, man, you remember when I helped you back in 2004 with that $20? I need to borrow $200 right now and it's 2020. They're just turning in the contract. It took a contract out on your ass. Your whole purpose of becoming selfish is being able to have the ability to need nothing from nothing, need nothing and want nothing. That's the only way that you will be able to have everything. That's when you're going to get everything. From the relationship that you maybe, your relationship that's going to be the relationship for alignment, because you're not looking for a relationship, because you're not in the need or the want of somebody as a partner. When you manifest the aspects of you are becoming the reflection of what you are wanting. You're becoming the reflection of what you're wanting. You're becoming the reflection of You're becoming the reflection of what is desired based upon the alignment. The more that I become my true self, the more I'm aligned to the aspects of what is either to teach me, to guide me, to nurture, to protect, to provide. That's you tapping into your spiritual aspect. The more that you are in alignment with your energy in that space, the stronger that you actually are becoming. Literally, like as Rubber said earlier, the aspect of Highlander. The more motherfuckers that you are, the more of your old self that you are killing off, the stronger your energy becomes because it doesn't need to maintain anything else. I remember 2001. I remember 2001. I remember what I looked like. I remember how I acted. I remember what my thoughts were. I remember everything about that motherfucker. But if I was to go back and have a whole conversation, like jump back and have a conversation with this nigga, like, yo, you gonna do this, 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 and this. Not only could he not see past 5 years, let alone even being able to see the 2020, he wouldn't even be able to comprehend 2020. So think about that to yourself. Put that in reverse. If you stuck inside of a certain compartmentalized way of thinking, that means you have your feelings based on that thought process. Your behaviors are based upon that thought process, and you moving in that narrative. How can you ever gain any clarity or anything of what you want from the higher aspects of yourself if your whole entire existence, you're living, your whole entire existence is based upon behaviors and old mentalities? How can you do anything in the now, live in the now, when everything that you're doing is based upon old mentalities and old behaviors that you have adopted throughout your life cycles? How can you do any fucking work? How can you get ahead? How can you embrace? How can you fully understand the hidden culture of yourself if you stuck within a space that's outside of the culture of yourself? How can you build anything? That's the top reason for you doing the work of becoming the aspect of becoming truly selfish. That's the true aspect of you becoming selfish, understanding this shit so you don't have to come back and repeat that shit. Because here's that secret in not coming back. And I said this, I've said this before. You can go look at Brother Panic's video about getting out of here, but none of that information will even set in. None of the new information that's coming down for based on releasing is going to be able to work until you've even done the beginning work. This is what motherfuckers are seeing right now. Motherfuckers that have not been doing the work, and now they're in a space when they stuck within that tangent of going back and forth, stuck in that cycle. Still talking about, like, man, they pedophiles and they all this, and niggas is gay, and niggas in the music industry is gay and all this shit. They still talking about that shit. They stuck there. To leave there is to have to change is to have to evolve past everything that they became used to. So you got one or two decisions. You got one or two choices. You got one or two choices. Either you're going to evolve or you're going to truly repeat. You're going to allow yourself to die or you're going to keep existing. You need that death. You need that shit to happen to you. Yeah. That was something else. A good way. Oh, yeah, that's what I want to say. A good way in unlocking aspects of you to understand impact of trauma in a reflection sense is when you look up your birth date. Also look up the events that happen around your birthday. Go a day before and a day after. Look at the day before and the day after of the events that happened around your birthday. Those become those are the access points, because your birth date is the date of your impact. The longitude, those are the ley lines of your impact coming down. And then when you look at the events that happened around the day that you were born, shit gonna start making a lot more sense. Shit gonna start making a lot more sense. Well, yeah. Got any questions? Thing you want to ask? Question and comments. Period. I did a little bit of a facelift to the channel over this last week. I added the card of the day. I'm gonna start doing more readings into that. Yesterday, I uploaded the first video for shadow work. The shadow, the explaining giving full details. I did a generalized shadow reading to break down what a shadow reading, how I do what a shadow reading and the consultation is. That video is up. It's a 2-part video. First part of the video is the in-depth of the reading. The second part of the video is like the explaining the consultation, 2-part video. Meditate and Elevates are being slowly pulled to YouTube channel. They'll be on the YouTube channel and they'll be on the website. I'm gonna do more deep things with meditations. The links to everything from Facebook, follow me on Facebook, follow me on Instagram, all up here. When you go into the channel and you click on it, got all the links up there. So Code Alchemy, my store, the online store for clothing and merchandise. Stay tuned because I am dropping new tapestries with new sigils, the sigil line tapestries, the Durja tapestries. A couple other ones came through for me to drop out. Services, I've added the readings to the services on that. Even the link to the podcast is on there. Everything's on there. But yeah, you have 2 decisions in your life. 2. To learn and evolve, or to remain ignorant and repeat. I don't want to come back here. I know I'm not coming back here. And for me not to come back here, it means I have to do the work not to come back here. So everything that I do has a purpose. Whether it's an intentional thing or an unintentional thing, everything that I do has a purpose. Everything that I do is to further connect me to my higher self, grow through the aspects of my higher self, raise my higher self to the higher aspects of myself. Everything that comes into my space, everything that's coming into your space is meant to further take you along in your journey, in your ride. If you continue giving charge to the negative, then your particle acceleration, when you're going and based into the negative thought process, it's particle deceleration. Your shit gonna keep slowing down. You seeing everything out here is in a state of particle deceleration. From telling your ass to stay in the house and wear a mask and limiting your festivities in the outside world, keeping you locked into certain spaces, got you looking at, that's all by a state of particle deceleration. Everything that you're doing, the more that you are focusing on your higher self, that's your particle, that's the particle acceleration. You're accelerating. That's why that shit's speeding up for you. That's why you're feeling that weight getting lifted. And now that's you going into the aspect of that's why you're jumping and doing, that's why you feel like you're jumping every single day, you're doing something else. That's the key of you quantum jumping. Whenever you think about taking them 2 cups and you say in this one, you put everything negative, and in this one you put, I want to go from here to here, and then you focus, you quantum jump, then you put all your good intents into this and everything you need to release into this glass, and then you drink this glass and pour that glass out. That's you quantum jumping. That's your programming. Everything that we do is based on that aspect of the program. We're at a higher, everything that we do and everything that we've become attracted to, now we're understanding the connections to it. That math, that science, the ability. That's what I was talking about, the Styles P interview. The Styles P interview, he was like, yo, for you to be able to put a ball into a hoop, nigga, that's quantum mechanics. That's what you're able to, that's what you're doing in your level of your life to yourself. Don't let anybody tell you that what you're doing serves no purpose. That's them putting that projection on you. Stop letting others projection on you. Stop letting other motherfuckers tell you that, yo, you wrong and you can't do that because that's going to lead to this and that's going to do this. Stop letting motherfuckers put their projections on you. Okay, that's how these motherfuckers attach. They're attached based on that. That trigger that come up, learn from the trigger. So if it triggers you, make you mad, make you upset, first find out what part of you to observe is it making mad. Is it making your identity mad? And that's where most motherfuckers are stuck at, that black people shit. Every time they do something to a black person, that's your identity. That's your ego that they keep stroking. They stroke your ego. They don't know any other way. They don't know love. They're the furthest aspect. They weren't created in love. They were created in fear. So every time they attack that, that's your attachment. Every time they touch your subconscious mind trying to hit you with a different programming, that's the underlying aspect, the reflection for yourself. But when they attack your soul, you really got to observe this one. Because they're going to use these two to attack this one. But as always, I just want you to be fucking great. I want you to be fucking the best. I want you to be the most badass-ery. Yes, it will be posted. It will be posted. It will be posted. It will be up. It'll be up probably, what time is it right now? When I end it, it'll be up it'll be up by like 12 a.m. my time. It'll be up before the end of the night. Did you have any questions that you wanted to ask? Oh shit. I lost my bag. Yeah. It'll be up. There ain't no problem, yeah. Ooh, child. Things are gonna get easier. Ooh, child. Things are gonna get bright. Oh shit. But yeah, I want you to be fucking great. I want you to be amazing. I want you to be fucking awesome. I want you to be everything that you require to create everything that you desire is within. Allowing yourself to break away from the older aspects of yourself. Allowing yourself to understand those aspects. Heard. Much gratitude. It's never too late. Never too late to apologize. Yeah, it's never too late to apologize to yourself. That is the whole aspect of you understanding that labyrinth. Getting into your mind, moving yourself. It's never too late to apologize to yourself. It's never too late to apologize to yourself. It's never too late to start working on yourself. It's never too late to become selfish. The whole key of the game is become selfish. That one thing they try to keep you from your entire life of becoming selfish, become selfish. Selfish is to become what? Selfish is to become my better self. Selfish is to become the higher self. Becoming selfless removes me from a body to be able to become selfless, removes me from a body to be able to become my best. Because if I'm always worried about being selfless, that means I need an image. I need images. I need everybody else's perception to create my body. That's what being selfless is. Being selfish is my ability to become my true body. My true body, to become my true body of my best self. To be selfless is to have to depend on the perceptions of others to project my body to project how I exist. That's going to be your key. I'm doing readings. The reading that I have for special, I did not post it to Instagram. The reading that I have on special right now is a cutting cord reading. It's 1313 because you know it's special because it's the 13th. Cutting cord reading is 1313. Inbox me, inbox DM, hit the number 910-777-7708. Schedule that reading for yourself. See what you need to cut out of your life. Understand what you need to cut out of your life. We can build from there. I want you to be fucking great. Share, subscribe, like, get the rhythms up. But yeah, what else was I about to say? That was about it. Yeah. If you do have questions, any question pop up after I go off, we go off the air, yeah, hit me up at the number is 910-777-7708, or you can inbox me, DM me. Every link, I remember I talked about earlier, I did the link. I'm saying especially for us because she just came in. All the new links for all the information, everything to get in contact with me is within the when you go into the page, everything's within the banner. My Facebook link, the link to the website, the link to Gotta Call Alchemist, LLC.com, the link to I Call Alchemy, the store, the link to the podcast, the link to Instagram, and the link to Facebook. I want you to be the best. Take this moment in time. 1 + 3. 1 + 3 equals 4. 4 is the number of consistency and stability. Take this time right now for that cutting them cords. Hit me up for that reading. I'll be up. I love you. We love us. Ashe. I got a piss.